Yes, brand new. I'd never been to Milwaukee before I moved here in August for TAO. So it was a lot of new things all at once. But I like it so far. It's different from the East Coast, but not terrible.
Yeah, I got here, I guess 2 months ago. Well, it's probably been more now.
My mother and my grandmother went to Marquette.
Wow, okay.
So I'm third generation Marquette. So my mother's from Milwaukee, so I'm very familiar with the area. My cousins live here, my grandmother still lives here, but I'm not from Milwaukee.
Yes, this is my first year at Marquette, and I've lived in Milwaukee for about 3 months.
Not really. I taught high school here for 1 year before I started at Marquette. And I've actually also finished my master's degree at Marquette, so that means I've been here on campus for 2 years before I started my doctorate.
I actually went and did my undergrad at Wisconsin Lutheran College, which is approximately 4 miles up the street from here. So I've been in Milwaukee for the last 4 years.
I am. I'm from the Cleveland area originally, and I've visited Milwaukee a few times in the past few years because my partner Addie's sister lives here. But we moved to Madison in August because she started a PhD in Madison, so I commute from there.
Marquette's program is unique because it doesn't make you take a decisive focus right off the bat. You're able to be flexible and do studies on your topics of interest within the program. So while you're not writing a final cumulative paper per se, you're still able to research what your preferred specialties are within other classes. So for example, I am doing a British Romanticism class right now. And within that class, I'm able to pursue my own interests in Dorothy Wordsworth and William Wordsworth, while at the same time, it's not a specific class that focuses on just Wordsworth. It's broadly Romanticism, but I'm able to focus on my area of interest within that broader class context.
So as a master's student, it's kind of bizarre. A lot of us don't necessarily come in with a specific area of study, and especially because the way we get our master's is by taking a test that covers American and British literature both. I mean, my area of interest is in young adult teen fiction, as well as in graphic novels. I definitely tend to like way more contemporary modern stuff than the old like Chaucer kind of things.
I would say that I'm interested in dystopian literature. I think that would be an incredibly interesting area to write a dissertation on and to maybe one day teach a class on.
So I'm a PhD in the English department, and I'm going to focus on 20th century American literature. Now that is a very broad category and involves a lot of different texts. So to be honest, I am thinking of something relating to how science fiction presents the reader and the public with very contemporary ethical dilemmas, but I am not 100% sure that that's what my project will eventually become. So it's definitely within the 20th century American, but more specific than that would be very hard to answer.
Well, I'm really interested in the cheap types of literature that people read, starting with the chapbooks, which start around 1790-ish and continue on, and then switching into the penny dreadfuls and the penny bloods, and then perhaps even looking into periodical literature a little bit. So the stuff that, you know, people could afford to read back in the day.
I'm hoping to study the British Catholic Revival in literature. So that would be Catholic British authors, turn of the 20th century.
Well, I mean, generally I'm in the master's program for English Lit, but my personal preference is more towards kind of what I feel underrepresented kind of authors and kind of subcultures of American literature. And so that's kind of like, I guess you could call it multi-ethnic literature, is more what I'm interested in, modern literature.
I studied more European and world literatures in my previous graduate work, focusing on the modern era, right around the turn of the 20th century. And I realized in the past few years when I was teaching as an adjunct in upstate Ohio that it's important for me to connect to my students, and in order to continue to do that in relevant ways, I need to study American literature, particularly the American literature from the 20th century, that I can then present to them in ways where they see connections with their own life and their own confrontations with ethical, political, and economical interests that are already surrounding them. And I feel like the 20th century American lit is the most direct way to do that.
I've been reading Chesterton for many years. I'm a big detective fiction fan, and I've been reading detective fiction since Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. And one thing led to another. Nancy Drew became, Agatha Christie and Miss Marple, which turned into Father Brown. From Father Brown, which is Chesterton's detective. He's a Catholic priest in England who goes around solving murders, mysteries. And then so from Father Brown, it just went into everything else Chesterton. And from Chesterton, it went into, like I said, Newman and Waugh. The more I read, the more it fascinated me. I'm Catholic, and so of course, from a religious perspective, it interests me. I love English literature, specifically, British literature, and so of course that just fed the interest.
Well, I started doing a project for one of my professors a couple of years ago that involved the digitization and posting online basically different types of cheap literature, mostly chapbooks. We have a couple of penny dreadfuls in there too. It's called the Graphic Archive. And what I was doing was working on uploading those documents and then also writing pieces that created kind of a constellation of knowledge around them as well to make it easier for people to do research with those types of materials.
Well, I applied to Marquette because they have the Trinities Fellow, and I was a Peace Corps volunteer for the last 3 years, and so there was pretty good funding opportunities to come here. I have a couple friends who are from Milwaukee, and was always like, I don't really know why, but kind of weirdly interested in Milwaukee as kind of, I'm from this big city. I've lived in LA and New York, and so I've lived in these two huge cities. So to kind of live in like a smaller city and see what that's like. And I'd never been to the Midwest before, I don't think. I think maybe once when I was like little, but I knew nothing about the Midwest. And so it just seemed like kind of an interesting place for me to go. As far as the kind of literature that I want to study, I think that kind of comes from my family history. All of my grandparents came to this country from different places, and that kind of sense of figuring stuff out in a new culture is what I really enjoy kind of studying and seeing people portray that in literature.
I fell in love with British Romanticism when I was an undergrad, and Marquette had the most prominent program. It fit me better than any other university did, and for those reasons I applied here and was more than grateful for when I actually got accepted.
The thing I like most about Marquette is the emphasis on teaching. I love the fact that we're taking a class on teaching, writing, and rhetoric and composition, and I love the fact that we teach throughout our time here. Like I said earlier, I come from teaching at a community college, and I think those 4 years are when I really realized I wanted to teach for the rest of my life. So what I like most about Marquette is it allowed me to combine my love for studying literature with more practical, more pragmatic training for teaching.
I was led to Milwaukee, and Marquette in particular, because they have a strong emphasis on teaching, one, and the interests of their number of their faculty members seem very important to the projects that I hope to develop as I'm here.
Definitely teach. And I think I'm still interested in teaching at the community college level, perhaps because I'm more interested in teaching than publishing. That might change in the next 4 or 5 years, but that's the long-term goal. I want to be a college professor.
My career choice would be an author, young adult teen fiction author, which is kind of a bizarre career choice to have when you're like in a TA program for an English major. But I was kind of taking it as if I'm going to be writing things based in the American literature canon, then I should know the canon a lot better than I do. My undergrad education was really great in having a wide variety of forms of literature, but really lacked the basics of American and British literature. So if I'm going to be an American writer, I feel like I should know what other books and kinds of things are out there.
I'm not really sure. I'm kind of one of those people doing that thing they say not to do, which is study literature, because that's like what you want to do. I don't necessarily have plans of being a teacher at the end of this or going into academia. I think it's kind of what drew me here was that like opportunity for Trinity, which I didn't end up getting, so I'm not part of that. But this kind of ability to combine your education and your study of literature with more, I don't know, call it practical, because that kind of makes it seem like academia is not practical, but just more kind of working directly with people and doing, I think I want to go into nonprofit stuff, but I'm not really sure. I have a while, I guess, to figure that out.
I would really like to teach college level English. Right now I'm doing writing, which is interesting in and of itself. And I realize that most university teachers would most likely start out with a writing position, but my real focus someday, hopefully, would be English Lit.
Well, my goal is to become a professor, and I'm probably looking for pretty much any type of position that doesn't involve going back and teaching high school again. So I'm willing to work in any type of higher ed.
Definitely teaching, and it's not a widening job market by any means. So any teaching that offers any position that offers any sort of security, but teaching at a college level would be ideal. I know some people with PhDs teach at private high schools, which is not my goal, but teaching. Community college is a great place for a lot of people to learn things about the world, so I'm not against that. The system of adjunct labor is not sustainable, so hopefully by the time I have my PhD, something will have changed with that, but we'll see.
Okay.
Ultimately, in an ideal world, I would love to be the Catholic American Jane Austen. How to get there, that's another question. The MA is one step towards, I hope, an academic career. Teaching is not my passion as much as writing. And even though I say that, it's very easy to say I want to be a writer, but of course, in order to be a writer, one must write. And I've been writing for many years, off and on, with more or less discipline. I hope this experience, this step, will be a step towards that, will be a stepping stone towards an actual writing career.
I've been lucky enough to kind of not have people surrounding me telling me like, oh, because whenever I tell someone that I'm in a master's program for English, and the automatic assumption, which is fair enough, is that I'm going to be, oh, so do you want to be a professor? And my first answer is no, and then like I have to collect myself and try to figure out what I want to say after that, because you can't just say no and leave it at that, because that makes things awkward. So yeah, I think I'm still trying to figure out kind of where I want to be, but I really see this program and kind of just the study of literature in itself as a really good way to appreciate culture, to understand history and society in general. And I think that's why I'm more talking about like kind of studying culture and studying society. That's why I'm more interested in kind of current modern literature, because I feel like certain authors do a really good job of kind of portraying a section of society that maybe we otherwise wouldn't get to see.
I am a big fan of drive-in movies, and there is a drive-in movie theater that is west of here, about halfway to Madison. And my husband and I like to go out there and watch double features a lot. And we take our lawn chairs and our stereo, and we sit outside, and you can usually see shooting stars behind the screen. So that's my idea of relaxation.
It's hard to answer that because I live in Madison. But in my spare time, I like to play the guitar, I like to read, I like to play the recorder and the harmonica. My partner Addie's mom just gave me a ukulele, so I've been learning that. I like to paint, and actually some of the other PhD students and I have gotten together already once this semester to paint together, and that's been a lot of fun. And we also have started a creative writing group that meets every other week. And so far we've just been reading and writing poetry, which I enjoy very much.
What do I like to do? Well, I don't know a ton of stuff to do in Milwaukee yet because I've only lived here a few months, but I've already eaten at some great restaurants. Never go wrong just going out for dinner. I like to bike a lot too. I think Milwaukee will be a good city for that. So despite the winters, I'm really looking forward to biking around Milwaukee. Obviously, I like to read a lot, although that seems to happen less for fun when you're in an English program, which is fine. Watch movies. I got married this summer. I like to just hang out with my wife, and I actually bought my first house this summer too, coming to Milwaukee, so it's maybe not my favorite thing to do in the world, but I seem to be spending a lot of time working on that. And actually that is kind of fun to watch that kind of become our own place. So that's, I think, how I spend a lot of my time these days.
For a little while now, I haven't really had too much time to do anything else besides reading and studying and teaching and all that. But Milwaukee to me is kind of really interesting. It's not a big city, right? So you compare it to like New York or something where I'm from, and you walk down the street there and you're gonna find something like weird or cool or interesting. Milwaukee, since it's a little smaller, you kind of have to find those things, and you kind of have to, if you meet people, and that's how you figure out what's going on. And it's just been really cool to me that all the stuff that actually is happening. I live in River West, and so there's all kinds of like cool like home garden type stuff, like classes on how to can stuff, and like all kinds of like kind of new agey but like really interesting things that I think can actually like improve people's lives. And I think Milwaukee is a cool place because you have the opportunity to actually feel like you're doing something because it's kind of smaller, right? So you have this event, or you go to something really cool, and it's like you're having a bigger impact on kind of the city as a whole. I actually didn't get to see anything in the Milwaukee Film Festival, but I really wanted to. There were lots of cool sounding movies, but I did not have any time. So hopefully, once I start figuring out grad school more and more, I'll be able to kind of make myself some more free time and to enjoy some of the cool stuff going on.
I really enjoy art, like oil painting and drawing, writing, literally because I'm spending half of my free time writing a book. I really like to run. I play video games probably more than I should. I have a shameful obsession with TLC reality TV. So I watch a lot of that in my spare time. I don't know. I like doing things. I don't like being bored. So I kind of pick up hobbies here and there as I go. I'm actually trying to find new things to do in this city. So I found I think that there's like a rock gym somewhere. So I'm thinking about like getting into rock climbing and things like that.
I like to read and write. That's why I'm at Marquette. That's why I'm where I am today. Yeah, if I weren't studying, I would be working and reading and writing on the side. Literature is my life in a way. I love spending time with my family, so parents, siblings. I love cooking, I love baking, I love dance. Otherwise, I like downtime, quiet time, reading time, good cup of tea and a good book.
Well, one of the reasons why I love Milwaukee is because of the symphony that's here. There's a fantastic group of individuals, very talented musicians, and I really enjoy going to see both symphony performances and operas by some companies like the Florentine Opera Company here in Milwaukee, and I enjoy theater as well. So anytime I get the chance to, I'd like to go see something at the Pabst, or I forget what other groups there are in Milwaukee. Sunset Playhouse is another one that I appreciate. Optimist Theater here in Milwaukee too. So lots of opportunities for culture here for sure.
And I also like part of it, like I liked how I think they shared like a bunch of music videos like from Milwaukee artists and that kind of stuff. And there's kind of this sense of like, I don't know, like pride in Milwaukee, which to me is like a really cool thing. Like I've been to like a couple like random either like fundraising events or just like for like some kind of small nonprofit stuff or just like farmers markets, and there's these like artists there who are from here and they're all like really, really good, and you like turn on the radio like 88.9 and there's like every hour, I don't know, whatever it is, there's like they play a band from Milwaukee. I think that's like really cool because it's giving these people here the opportunity, but also for me it's like I went and like saw this band and actually like met them and like hung out and was able to like talk with them about their music versus like in a bigger place, there's like more of a disconnect. So here it's kind of like I don't know, to me it's like you're more connected with people doing cool things. It's easier to kind of get in touch and stuff like that.
Really, I don't have a lot of time because I still work on the Gothic Archive. So it's kind of more than a full-time job. And I love to teach here too. So that keeps me really busy as well.
I've only been taught at Marquette for a short period of time, but I've really been enjoying that. I've really I had fun getting to know my students while I'm simultaneously a student. That's a really weird line to walk down, but it's also a really interesting one because it helps the classes, the stuff that I'm learning, and the stuff that I'm teaching all kind of mesh into one interesting educational experience.
I'm enjoying myself very much here within the English department as a teacher and as a student. I've started to get to know some of the faculty members that are very intelligent and very engaged and very committed to what they do, and that is very edifying for me, as well as instills a foundation of hope and decency that is not present in every part of the world that I've lived in and worked in. And similarly, the other students in my cohort, I've gotten to know a number of them quite well, and I'm very pleased to be a part of this class here at Marquette.